Hello, hello, hello. Happy Friday. How's it going? Cynthia Alejandra here. You guys, I have something super juicy today. And it's been a few days since I've been here on something super, 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 super delicious that I can't wait to share with you. So I wanted to invite my sweet friend and my secret weapon on this live. So, hi, Jules. Good to see you, lovey.
Hello, hello.
Hi. Can you hear me well?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Good.
All right. So, if you're joining us live, do say hello. Hi, Olive. Good to see you here. You guys, so for those of you that don't know me, my name is Cynthia Alejandra, and I am a mentor and coach for women in business that are earning over 250,000 a year and are ready to break through the ceiling that they've been struggling with. And I've been doing this work for a couple of years, and it's just been really fascinating because in my journey, in my journey of doing this work, I also seek mentorship, guidance, and all the things. And I came across meeting my secret weapon, Miss Jewelz, who is a master at what's it called? Subconscious work. And so anyway, we have been doing some work together, and we thought, why are we not telling the world about what we're doing, like more than what we've been doing, right? And so I just want to make this so impromptu and, grab your coffee, grab your favorite drink. It is Friday, you guys. We are in an eclipse season, so there's so much happening. And so, Jules, tell us about you, baby.
Well, first off, thank you for having me, Sin. I know the work that you and I do has been magical to say the least, but the work that you do is just amazing. Like the transformations I have seen from your group and the women that work with you is next level. So if you haven't worked with Sin or haven't talked to Sin, or if you just came across us and don't follow Sin, you really should because you're missing out. She's lightning for sure. And you
Oh
look
my.
like fire today. Can I just say that? Like, dang.
Thank you, honey. I actually we are in an eclipse season, so I woke up not feeling like my best, and I'm like, okay, what can I do, to feel a lot brighter and all the things. So anyway, I'm like, let me glam up, because
The
that makes me feel better, it makes me feel good. So, and I was gonna show up on camera. So what a beautiful reason, right? So you
yeah.
look gorgeous as well, by the way, but you
Well,
always
thank
do.
well, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so tell you about me. Well, let's see. My story is this. I spent 20 plus years in the ballroom industry. I was a performance coach. So I would work with people. We would have people from all walks of life come in and they would want to learn skills. And inevitably, it would turn out that the skills they learned on the dance floor would propel them in their personal and professional lives.
Hmm.
I can't tell you the number of times people would tell me that they spoke in front of a large group of people for the very first time and they attributed it to the skills that they learned on the dance floor and performance. Um, People that their relationships changed with their partner. And anyways, as I got closer to the age where we wanted to have kids, we really started to question like what path do we want to go down. And I knew for me it was impact. I wanted to impact people on a much deeper level. So like the transformations I saw through the performance side of stuff that we did, while that was a beautiful, fun chapter of our life, I wanted to go deeper with people. And so I spent some time. I was very blessed to be able to spend a few years at home with my little ones. And I spent time really kind of digging in deep of who I wanted to show up as in my next chapter. And that's how I got into subconscious mastery. And subconscious mastery work is deeper than mindset work. It's not a lot of people know mindset work or have used and worked with mindset work, and it does absolutely have its place and has results. The stuff that I do is when it's really deep. So when it's locked into the subconscious, and we can go into that a little bit more as we go through this, but that's the stuff that I do. I work on deep level change. where if somebody has a success block that, or an identity that is stopping them from reaching their goals or fulfillment, which I know you and I talk a lot about, is that deep fulfillment in life. That's where I love. That's the playground I like to play in.
I love what you're saying, right? Because, okay, first of all, when I first met you, I was mesmerized by your beauty. You and your husband are the hottest couple, one of the hottest people that I know. And when
Oh,
I
thank
learned
you.
you guys were dancers and actually almost were famous for that, I was like, oh my gosh, like I just love your story, right? And I love your dynamic with your husband Nathan. But then when I got to know you as a person, right? Like I knew there was more depth into this. And I started doing my mentorship through literally like I almost felt like a counselor when I was working in corporate. I was there for 22 years and I almost felt like I was counseling like high achieving women and all the things. And I, opened my mentorship in that space, working with high power women. That's literally like, if you look through my content, that's what I did. And because I also was a high power woman that reached success that it's almost like a self-made concept. And as you start to navigate and start to scale up and you start to build business, you start to, grow your career, you start to hit roadblocks. And so when I transitioned from corporate into my mentorship space and I'm working with women that are millionaires, women that are making, a certain level of money, you would think that, oh, you've already reached this peak. So why are you not happy? Like we see this all the time, right? With celebrities, you hear about like they're unalive one day and you're like, wait, but everything looked perfect. Like, what the hell? Or you hear about, you know, my heart goes to them because their life is in a spotlight, right? So you get to witness like the journey, right? And it's not always gracious. People love watching movies because the plot twist is always there and it's like, in 2.5 hours, 3 hours, you get the high of like the backstory to like the victory, right? And you're like, oh, that was a pivotal moment. But when it's your life, the pivotal moment is not always there. And so, as I was doing the transformational work with these women, and I was also navigating my own journey, and I started working with you, I'm like, this girl has something because I almost feel like I've worked with women more in the forefront, in their self leadership and mastering their authority. How do you show up in business? How do you show up in your relationships? How do you show up with your children? But working with you, me personally, I learned that I'm like, holy moly, this girl can actually get to the subconsciouses and help rewire it. And because of that, like, I knew that my results started to like pivot faster and faster. And so when I brought you on board to work with my clients, my high ticket clients, and seeing their results, I'm like, okay, this is fantastic because it's almost like I'm doing the forefront work. And then you're like the person that comes in and is like, oh, this is a parasite that has been like eating your seed. Let's bring it out. And so clients like talk about this work so much, especially when they've been working with us, because they have seen a pivotal transformation, right? In their leadership and how they're showing up in their $1 million businesses and how they're showing up in their unconventional relationships. And so I thought it would be a great idea. And I've been having this in my mind for some time. And then you reached out and you're like, hey, why don't we talk more about this stuff? So I'm like, this is perfect because we have this idea, and you tell me, Jewelz, like most of us feel like we're pretty good until we're not pretty good.
Until we hit that wall.
Right. We are told that, hey, you are already successful, you are already driving the Range Rover, you are already like in the perfect relationship on Instagram. Like, if you have problems, shame on you for being stuck.
That's right. And define success. What is success? And so I guess my first question would be is how do you define success? And is success the same for everybody? And if you have a definition of success, where did you learn that definition from? Does it come from your soul or does it come from the family environment you grew up in? Were you told that that's what success is? There's so many layers to that. And I think that's what's beautiful too. And I want to make sure that I impress upon this to anybody that watches this. I'll work with people, and what's different about what I do versus, like, say, traditional talk therapy is you can do, and I know a lot of people that have been in talk therapy for years. The stuff that I do is much more rapid than that. Usually you get results within, depending on what it is that we're targeting, could be anywhere from weeks to months. And the people that come from your space, I have noticed, because we don't have to take the time to figure out what direction they need to go. We know exactly the heart of what to hit. Their transformation is so much more rapid, and it's so beautiful to watch. And I know you can attest to it as well. Like, these are holistic changes. How many times have you seen, or I know I've witnessed, someone will come in and they want to work on something maybe in their personal goals, but then I would say on average about 3 months, they're redoing their home. They're taking artwork that they've had on their walls down. They're throwing clothes away and revamping their clothes. They're full changing their identity and how they show up in the world.
Yeah.
So it's pretty wild. I mean, and you said that you made a shift. So would you say that that was because you felt unfulfilled before?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. So for context, when I first started playing, again, being self-made, right? I came with, you talked earlier about like, what is your success? How do you define success, first of all? And I've heard Gary Vee, for those of you that are in social media and you love like hearing different people that are like already in their peak, well, and they're heading to more peaks, right? I heard Gary Vee talk about like, you just got to be happy. But that was even a foreign thought for me because happiness was not for me. And so I was told success was you have to work really hard. You have to climb the ladder. You have to be a boss. You have to get married by a certain age. And especially growing up Hispanic, you have this idea of what success looks like. You're supposed to be married. You're supposed to have a certain amount of kids. Your life is supposed to be portrayed a certain way. God forbid religiously, right? You're supposed to wear certain things and all the things. So it was personally extremely exhausting for me. It was extremely exhausting to me because I'm like, which persona am I playing? And so I got to corporate. I earned six figures with, no education, and I was burned out. I mean, I really remember wiping out my bank account, taking time off because I just needed a break. And then I went back to the grind again. And, I got to a point that I'm like, when is enough enough? Because my relationship sucked. My, job was paying the bills, but I had no romance in that connection. And
Yeah.
if you know me, like if you've been following my content, like I love romance and everything. Like I'm making my ex, I'm romancing that shit.
I love it.
I love romance. And
Yeah.
so I started doing a lot of healing work. I got exposed to personal development in 2022. I also hired a therapist, and nothing against therapy at all.
Mm-mm.
For me, it was just not, it scratched a certain level, but I still felt like I was struggling. So I started doing a lot of deep work. I mean, I'm 43 years old, and I feel like now I'm like going in the depths, and that's why I feel like God has trusted me with the clients that I've had because I've done a radical change. Like I'm currently navigating a divorce and I look like this. You know what I mean? Like bragging, not to brag but to brag, you know what I mean?
You should, because I'm telling you, it's a powerhouse mindset to be able to navigate something like that.
Yeah,
Most
yeah.
go.
And working with clients too, right? So it's like holding a business. Like I've made the most money navigating a divorce than while I was in a marriage. And so, and I'm not here to promote divorce or to promote marriage, simply to say when you are aligned with yourself, with the way you know success, what success is meant to look like for you, you flourish naturally.
Yes.
For me, I got to the question of like, how come? Because after retiring from corporate, I created a business with my ex partner that got to seven figures, and was not, I was not happy. I thought I was happy, but I was like pretending not to see certain things to keep, again, the family together, doing the thing. And so when I started doing this work, I'm like, oh my God. And I brought those lessons, I brought those techniques that helped me navigate, the process with clients. And then I suddenly saw that they went from like being stuck with their teams, being stuck and not getting answers from leadership. It's incredible how many women don't feel respected in the workspace in 2025.
I know. Actually, there's a couple points I wanna say to this, if you don't mind, if it's
Oh,
okay.
no, go for it.
So first off, holistic changes. It changes everything. When we start to dive into this work and we start to really figure out who we are, it'll change things on a holistic level, like I said. So I just want to put a disclaimer out there because I'm all for supportive marriage, you know, and things happen. Sometimes, divorce is something that just needs to happen because it's two people that just, it's not going to work. But I will say this, for anybody that's really serious that's out here listening to this and you want to do development and you're in a marriage and you want, a happy marriage, bring the partner along. If they're willing to do this work with you, I highly, highly, highly encourage them to do this work alongside you. Because then if you build up who you are, your standards change. So you're no longer on the ground floor of standards. You're now, say, on the 15th floor moving up to the penthouse. Well, if your partner hasn't done this work too, they're left at your original standards. And then at some point, you're no longer aligned with one another. So I just want to put a preference out there. I always, always, if I have married couples, and I'm not saying this is what happened to you and there's no dogging on anybody here. I'm just saying, like, for me personally, when I have people do this work, if you have a relationship that is healthy and obviously you want to maintain, doing this work is so holistic and again, you change your standards. I encourage people to do this work together. Because mainly the thing is that whether we realize it or not, and sometimes people don't like to know this, but who we are around the most, the habits that they have are the habits we pick up. The way they speak or the way we speak, how they spend their time, if it's at night, say on TV, or if it's night reading a book, changes how you show up in the world. It changes what you draw into the world because, and we can talk about our filter later, but it changes how we show up in the world. And so the people you are around the most, you will start to adapt. And a case in point, if you think about sports, someone that is, I'm going to pick two extremes here, someone that is a golf professional or hobbyist, there's a certain level of dress that golfers dress like. And then you take, say, skateboarding, right? They have special shoes. They usually wear baggier pants. They're completely opposite styles. But if you think about it, it's almost like a culture. So if you get really into skateboarding, you're going to dress completely different than if maybe a year ago you were really into golfing, right? You start to adapt that environment. And that's my whole point to this. When you do this work and you start to level up, you level up your standards. I always encourage people to do it together. And if you got a group of people or a collective of women together, like I know you have a beautiful community, these are great things because you lift each other up. But again, the people you surround yourself, those are the habits that we create.
Right.
The other thing I wanted to share, fun fact, I looked this up before our meeting. Did you know that there's a $630 billion turnover crisis that ties to empty success? So according to Gallup, there's estimates that the U.S. businesses lose up to $630 billion yearly to volunteer turnover. And why? A large portion of that turnover is because they don't have fulfillment. They lose their drive. They get burned out. Sound familiar? Like, I know that was, for me, I wanted depth, right? It wasn't that I didn't like my job. I loved my job. I lived a dream. I just wanted depth. 630 billion yearly. This is why we work with teams as well, because turnover rate is costly to businesses, but you know, what's it costing us on an individual level too? Like, how many hours of our life are we spending at work? And if it doesn't mean something, if it's not fulfilling, you know,
Right.
maybe the job you currently have could be fulfilling if you were aligned and knew exactly what your values were, and it just took a couple minor tweaks.
Yeah.
Can mean a world of difference.
Right. I feel like, when it comes to that, right, it's important, like, if I may go deeper on this, for me, when I was younger and I was a single mom and I was looking for answers and I was trying to find fulfillment, I went to religion, right? Like that was my thing. I wanted to find something spiritual. I just wanted to connect with something deeper, something greater. But, I found myself chasing a high every Sunday. And I found that throughout my work and throughout my personal journey, that we often want to seek on the outside what we are afraid to look at what's within. And so I know you and I work a lot tremendously on women, particularly that feel like success is not enough. They've already reached the degree, they already reached the job title, they've already reached the car, the relationship, the thing. And then they're like, well, it's still not enough. Like they're part of the popular girl circle, or they are the popular girl circle, and there's still an emptiness
Yeah.
that it's like the thing you cannot unsee. And for me, I realized that it has a lot to do with how you are with you. And that's why I personally love working with clients on a one-on-one level, or very intimate, like very much like let's have a sleepover type of energy, like let's gather the small group of girls and let's get in the living room and let's talk about boys. Let's talk about, like, what really bothered you this week, type of thing. Because like when you really like dive deeper, right, when you have an inner circle that is trusted, that you can trust,
Safe.
then you're able to work. And first of all, give yourself permission to express, and then safely get feedback as to what's going to get you to the next level, or something as simple as just being heard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but the women that I've worked with, it's so interesting because I offer multiple spaces that bring multiple women, like masterminds, and sometimes I get the question of, well, who's going to be there?
Yeah. They're
Because
looking for safety.
right there's like this fear that women cannot hold women, and we live in a time that we're all about women empowerment. But I'm like, are we really empowered, or why are we still feeling like my sister is my threat? Why are we still feeling like this woman is my threat? Personally, I feel like there's been a huge agenda to make that happen, because as women we're very powerful. You talked earlier about doing the work together,
Mm-hmm.
but I also feel that the work starts with you. Sometimes when your partner doesn't see the vision, they weren't given that
Mm-hmm.
vision, or your friend or your community, they don't see the vision, you are meant to lead yourself to the answers, to be that evidence that, hey, wait a minute, this new approach can work. Wait a minute, actually I can trust women to share my life and actually not be betrayed or not be stabbed in the back or gossiped about, right? Personally, in the past 4 years, I've worked tremendously hard to find those circles and create those circles. And so, like, when when I encountered you and I saw the work that not only you and I did together on a one-on-one, but that we did together with clients, I was like, holy moly, like this is perfect. Because the question begs, why are people with so many resources now, with
Yeah.
so much ability to connect, why are they still unfulfilled? In your opinion, why do you think that is?
Oh, I love this question. Well, first off, the space thing. So I think for a while, yeah, we were kind of in this paradigm where women couldn't lean on other women, and we're, I feel, coming out of that. But at the same time, also, that's not true, because it's all about your belief. If you have a lack mindset or an abundance mindset, but what does that mean? So I would explain it like this: when we're young, we all create a map of what the world is. So think about it. You could have a child that grows up in maybe a less than safe or healthy environment. Maybe they're in foster care, right? So they don't have a stable home with parents. They could create a map of the world, that the world is scarce, that there's not enough resources, and that people don't follow through with what they say. So that could be their map of the world. So they view everything, every life decision, every automatic response that they're not consciously thinking of through those lenses. And then there's a point where they're going to go, okay, so if this map of the world is this, how do I fit into this world? And if they've been let down a lot, they're going to go, well, I can only rely on myself. So I'm going to put my backpack on and everything comes down to me. And I can only trust myself and I'm only rely on myself. And those are your really hard workers. And most of the, a fair amount of time, they become very successful and also very burnt out because they don't have success. I mean, they have the success in paper, but in their heart, they don't have the inner peace. And it's because that's the program that they've been running on. In the same sense, you could have a child grow up in a household where, they felt a lot of safety and love and could rely on others. And so their map of the world might look more abundant, and it might look more safe and loving and like, okay, I can freely walk through and not have fear. It doesn't mean that everybody's safe, but, for the most part, there's an abundance. So I don't have to worry or stress about, getting what it is that I want, because I can have what I want and they can have what they want because there's an abundance, right? So that could be their map. And then how they feel, or how they create their self identity, or of in that map, might be that they can rely on others. They feel safe to ask for help, and you know what, they can give freely because they know it's going to come back to them. And I think so. If you think about those two paradigms, those two children are going to grow up and they're going to view the world vastly different, which also means their automatic responses, the ones that they're not consciously aware of making all the time, their responses to life are going to be different. So that is the depth of what it means when you have somebody that says lack mindset or abundance mindset. So if you have somebody that comes into a space and maybe they don't feel safe, a lot of that, I think, comes from the fact of what is their map of reality, what has their experience taught them. And a lot of times when I'm working with people one-on-one, we'll go back into the subconscious mind, and the subconscious only understands emotions. It doesn't understand logic. So these subconscious beliefs, right? A lot of times when they come forward, I've had people go, well, that's stupid. It's like, no, it's not stupid. Your mind is trying to protect you. At some point, this served a purpose. It served a purpose to tell you had to rely on yourself maybe for a while, but maybe it's not serving you anymore. So when they come into these spaces and they're worried about, is it safe? Can I share? Well, right there in and of itself is, if somebody is going to judge you for something, that's a them problem, not a you problem. And I think the biggest thing I could share right now, and the biggest revelation that I had in my own journey, was just because somebody else thinks it or says it does not make it truth. Right. Now think about that for a moment. Just that saying is like, well, duh, that's obvious. Our conscious mind gets that. So sit with that today. And I'm going to challenge anybody that watches this, sit with that for this weekend and really think, when people's opinion, does it matter to you? And how much truth do you give them? And are we giving away our power when we do that? Like these are things that it's easy to just on a surface level be like, that doesn't mean anything. But catch it, really catch it. And you're standing in a line and getting a Starbucks this weekend or out with friends and maybe they make a comment and you're just kind of like, ouch. Does it make it true? How much of you puts value and weight into that? And then if you do, for those that do really put weight into those opinions, if you're in a space and you don't feel safe because you might get judged, and I get it. It when you get deep enough into this, you just stop judging because you just start accepting that people are, that's their life, that's their experience, and we should just be here to support them. Because at the end of the day, celebrities too, you get the celebrities like you were saying, it's sad because they'll unalive say themselves because they're unfulfilled. Well, they're in a spotlight. How many people judge them for their everyday actions? Can you say yourself that you could do better if you were put in that situation? But most people don't pause to think that. So I just go back to it's a map of reality. And if people are really worried about spaces like that, like we need to be more supportive of others and realize that, if somebody's going to judge you, it doesn't make it truth. And the best thing you could do is educate them on this. Like, hey, you might need to revisit how you view the world because I don't view it this way and I don't judge people. I'm here to help people walk through. They're having an experience so that one day they have the experience to help somebody else. That's what I believe. I think we have experiences. When we walk through these experiences and we learn, then it's our duty to now help another person through that.
Yeah, I think to dive a little deeper more in that, because we went deep on this, but that can sound like very, for those of you watching, right? Like, and let us know in the comments, like, what do you feel about this? Because, when it comes to fulfillment, right? A lot of people that come into my manifestation workshops, they're like, oh, I want the big house. I want the relationship. I want this. I want that. But then when you dive deep, right, there's something blocking them from actually achieving it, and it's usually a knowing, right? So you said that in different words, Jewelz.
Mm-hmm.
What I want to call out is sometimes it's important to, from a surface level, yeah, if a stranger came and said, like, I had a Cheeto chat not long ago telling me on my inbox what to do with my life, it's like, who cares, right? Like, I don't know you guys, like, I don't know how you ended up on my feed. But if it's your father, if it's your mother, if it's your loved one, if it's somebody that you love, your partner, that says, well, you can lose 5 pounds, that's really what's going to make it better. Or if it's a teacher that you looked up to, right, a best friend, somebody that you admire, somebody that matters to you, challenges your view on something, depending on where, into that filter that you were talking about, right? You may want to say, well, maybe I need to change the way I dress. Maybe I need to change the way I feel, right? And I just feel like in 2025, you guys, I I almost felt this before the year started. This year is meant to be a revolution. If you haven't felt it yet, like, it's here to like shatter everything you thought was solid to create what is meant to be solid for you. Like,
Agreed.
still living in people pleasing, if you're still living in fake it till you make it, if you're still living in pretending, right? Like, it's not going to be long lasting. And I feel like that's exactly why I love the work that I get to do with Jewelz and clients, is that not only do we work through this ourselves, right? Because you can find a lot of gurus out there that tell you, like, hey, this is how you do it, and they write a book and then they come and sell it to you in a masterclass. We actually do this work, and we have clients to prove that work, right? Like, we have that evidence, we have those receipts. Because again, it's not about, yes, you want a fat bank account, go get it. You want the Instagram relationship, sure, go get it. Like, it's not, there's nothing wrong with what you want. As a matter of fact, that's one of the things that I teach. What God planted, or source, universe, whatever you think made you, planted in your seed. You notice how like what you want is not what I want, and what I want is not what you want.
Yep.
Like we have people think manifestation is the cutest thing until they start to realize that it is your moral obligation to bring it to fulfillment, because you are meant to be the evidence of that desire in full blown life.
Yeah.
You want the marriage, you want the relationship, you want the business, you want to have the children, you want to have the bank account, you want to have the travel experiences, do you want to have be that successful woman that has a husband at home, or you want to be that successful woman that has an very alpha male with her, like whatever is it that you want, you are meant to create it. And when you're not experiencing the creation of that journey of bringing that to life, it's when fulfillment feels like, where am I in your
Yeah.
life?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
It's that disconnect.
it is that disconnect, and it's like, what's it going to take? So while you might BS people, while I used to BS people and say, well, yeah, I got it all together, I had to face my reality that I didn't.
Well,
I
and you might have it all together. I mean, if you think of life as pillars, you might have it all together in four of the five pillars, and one's a hot mess.
Right.
That's a lot of what I do. I know
Right.
it's a lot. What did you do? Do you want to talk a little bit about how you tackle that for finding fulfillment? I mean,
Yeah, sure. I think for me, like, when I knew I had major what is it? Not goals, but I had major bucket list things that I wanted to create. Like I wanted to get pregnant, I wanted to work from home, raise my son. I didn't get the chance to do that with my daughter. I wanted to have a big fat bank account, and I got those things, and I had the relationship, I had the cars, I had it. And then I was like, something is not right. And for me, I feel like many women have been, especially coming from the era of hustle hard, be very independent, don't depend on a guy. It's almost like shameful to talk about what you truly want, especially when it comes to emotions. I was having a conversation with a beautiful friend the other day who's also very, very successful. And I was asking her about how she made her decisions, her business decisions to choose mentorship. And she said a lot of them came from helping me restore my relationship with my husband. And I was like, wait a minute, that's the same thing for me. Like a lot of the things that I did was to keep love in my life. And I feel like there's a lot of women that want that fulfillment, that want more, right? And then there's other women that already have it, but then they feel like they need to be successful with having the bank account. So, but for me, after I hit my dream, and literally my vision board, I do vision board work all the time. My life was a vision board. I realized that
love it.
I was not fulfilled.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was like now, and in hindsight, I realized that it was because I was being the male in a lot of areas of my life. I was the one driving the thing when I wasn't meant, for me, I wasn't meant to be in that hustle hard leadership, balls to the wall attitude. I was meant to be leaning back and be very feminine and be in my essence, and like I say now, I would gladly be a trophy wife.
For all of those out there watching.
Please. Like so um but that's what woke me up, because I'm like, wait, I think it's time to come
Yeah.
home. There's nothing that sucks more than climbing a ladder and getting to the top and you're like, fuck, this was the wrong wall to climb.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was the thing. I was just like, no, no more. So I got deeper into this work, and I teach women now how to master their self authority, right? I believe believe that no matter what other people are doing, you are the creator of your life. You are writing the script. You get to decide what flows and what doesn't, right? And I experienced it in a level, right, when I was doing this work, and my ex, somewhat elevated to the level I was at, and we complemented each other in our differences. However, you to your point, you have to continue doing this work,
Yep.
because you will grow apart, right? If you start to expand in different areas that they are. And that's a conversation for a different day, but I definitely do feel that you have the authority to say, I want to change my life. You're not a tree. You're not here for good. You haven't been here for 100 years, and you're absolutely rooted that the only way to move you is to cut you. No, you have the ability to create the love in the life that you want. But you have to be bold about it. I can't tell you how to do it.
Yep.
You have the dream. You have the seed. I just got the water to water it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's where, I love working with you, Jewelz, because I feel like I almost feel like our life is like a pot of soil, right? Where I'm working with clients, and we start going through the dirt and preparing the dirt, the soil, right? To create this seed, let it sprout and create fruit. And then it's like you see a parasite, it's like, ew, a termite, let's get it out, right? And Jewelz, come and help me. And so that's where you come in, and you help me and my clients get to that point so that we can experience massive results. I am all for people doing personal development forever, but I'm also for people creating massive results as soon as possible. And so that's why I love what we are doing. And so I just wanted to say we are going to, Jewelz and I are going to be doing these conversations. It's 12:12 here. What a beautiful number. Oh my God. We're here to start cracking that shell that we have created of everything's perfect. I'm good. I don't need to talk about my feelings. Look, we are going through an eclipse season. I know all of y'all are having big feelings. So you cannot BS me. I know what's happening outside. It's like saying it's pouring rain outside, there's a tornado outside, and you're like, oh, I'm not wet. Yes.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So what about you, Jewelz? What got you to say, hey, something has to change? I'm curious.
Well, for me, having children was a big deal. It was a huge deal. And we tried for 8.5 years before we were successful. So that took a large toll. And the short of the story is I spent 5 years trying to do natural therapy to get pregnant, and it eventually worked. But I think what ultimately happened was I made a shift in my mind. I remember the exact moment I made it. I remember I was standing in our driveway. We lived on the West Coast at the time. I had just stepped out of my car. I literally can remember the moment of standing between my car door and the car in my driveway. And I made this mental shift, and I was like, okay, fine. We're going to put a pin into getting pregnant for 1 year, because the one thing I'm a little nervous about, because I loved our life at the moment. I mean, we had a beautiful fairy tale life. And I was like, I'm going to miss the travel. So we're just going to travel for 1 year. And we'll travel for 1 year. And then after that, if we still can't have a baby naturally, then we'll adopt. And I was okay with that. So I had told him, he was on board. So I literally started that day figuring out, because at the time we did travel through our studio. So I was like, let's plan some trips. So we planned an Argentina trip. And wouldn't you know, it was over the week of it was like April 10th to April 20th or something the next year. And I want to say it was about 3 weeks later, I had problems with my shoulder. It kept dislocating. And long story short, I found out I was pregnant because they were going to do an MRI or whatever, and you had to get a pregnancy test in order to do it. I found I was pregnant. So it's like 3 or 4 weeks after we made this decision.
You made a baby in Argentina?
No, I actually had to cancel the trip. What I'm saying is we designed this trip to go to Argentina. It was supposed to be like the next year. I think it was like April 10th to the 20th.
Mm-hmm.
And we hadn't promoted it yet. I had just started putting it together, was making the connections over there. And then my shoulder dislocated. And through a series of tests, we found out I was pregnant. And so we had to cancel the trip because my due date was April 15th, which would have fallen right in, and I don't think that's coincidence, it would have fallen right on when we would have been traveling. So like I made the mental shift that we're going to put a pin in this and we're going to do all the things that we would miss out. Because, you know, when you have a little one, you're not necessarily going to travel the world the first year. Not some people do, but I didn't see us doing that. And so I made this decision mentally. We're just going to do all the travel for the next year and then we'll revisit having a baby. And if it doesn't happen naturally, we'll adopt. And I truly believe now, knowing what I understand with the subconscious, that that was the pivotal moment that shifted, and that's why I was able to get pregnant and keep it. And when that happened, it made me question, like, well, okay, that was a mental shift. What other things can I do with mental shifts? And I just went down this rabbit hole and fell in love, and I started getting certifications and learning. And so now it's like I can look at things and go, okay, that's a mental shift that needs to happen. Let's work on that. And so I've just created tools. So like you were saying, you know, about people feeling fulfilled. On my end, I look at it from, well, what does fulfillment look like to you? And most people will answer that. But if you're honest with yourself, are you answering that from your soul? Or are you answering that from the culture you grew up in?
Right.
And most of us would say it's probably the culture you grew up in. And, you know, a lot of decisions, choices, from how we eat to how we live, our hobbies to even religious preferences. And people don't like to hear that, but think about it. If you were born in another part of the world, might you have grown up in a different religion?
Right.
Might you have spoken a different language? Maybe you would have different habits. You know, it's the same reason you can have an adopted child from another world come into a family and develop the same uh, familial diseases,
Yeah.
right? Because they're in that
Yeah.
same environment. And then, so that's one way I tackle it. So we really define what your values are. And so I dive deep with people on and ask the questions that no one really ever thinks to ask, and to really sit with yourself. What do you value? Put everything else aside. No one's judging. What is important to you? And when we start to align those values, what we do is we align those values of what they really want in a specific pillar, and we will line them up, what I call like a quantum vision board. We line them up and put them in a vision, and we set it so that our subconscious mind holds on to it. We can forget it, but everything, we set it to where everything we view in the world is viewed through that. And then I can dive in. We have a filter in our mind that will search for what we tell it is important. And so we set this vision that we want, and then the filter will start looking for solutions to take us that way. So it acts as a subconscious driver. So where most people are like subconscious blocks, I have learned how to not only get rid of subconscious blocks, but what I really love to do is train the subconscious to do the work for us.
Right.
And so that's where it gets really, really fun. And then you start to learn things like more about yourself, like are you internally referenced or externally referenced? And when you understand these things, which I can dive into if you want, but when you understand those things, it helps you drive towards the goals you want. And then we just, like I said, we get clarity around what is valuable, what is valuable to you. You know, some people, travel is valuable. You could have two people in a team, because I know a lot of the women on here that are highly successful probably run teams. You might have two people on your team that have different drivers. One driver might be time off, another one might be more hours. So if you have extra hours or extra work to give to somebody, do you give it to the person that wants to make it to their son's soccer game over the weekend, or do you give it to the person that's doesn't have kids yet and maybe making money so that they can, you know, save up for the car they want is more important? You know, and little details like that motivates our teams, and it keeps that $630 billion turnover down, right? I mean, that's such a crazy number.
Because like I think I saw a quote that said 79% of females make business decision out of trauma. And so you're talking about like where do you allocate the work, right? Where do you allocate the person, right? Like do you have that vision, not only the vision, but do you have the
Mm-hmm.
discernment to understand what goes what? And
Mm-hmm.
where, right? Like,
Yeah.
do you have discernment? And I think that's why this work that we do together is so important. So I think for today, it's 12:51. Like I am loving this conversation and I could stay here for hours and hours.
Same.
Um, but I want to dive deeper on these topics, Jules. Are you down for
I
that?
am so down for that. And I think too, if anybody has questions, I'm so open to questions and we can tackle those on the next one too.
Yeah, yeah. So feel free to message us either on this reel or you can, message us on our inbox. Jules is the one answering her inbox. I'm the one answering my inbox. So you're not getting robots. You're not getting any sort of weird AI. It's us, right? Not saying that AI is not your BFF. I'm just simply saying you get the human side of
Mm-hmm.
us. And so any questions that come up for you guys, feel free to message us. But I say let's have another date next Friday,
I love it.
30 Central, 12:30 Eastern. How about that?
Perfect. Same day, same time.
Same day, same time. And I want us to, I just love the 1222 number. It's an angel number and it's about leadership and doing things together. It's my number. Sorry. I just had to see it.
I love it.
So listen, if you love this and if you know somebody that can be changed, can be impacted by or get hope by the message today, feel free to share this with them. If you have any questions, feel free to send us a DM, something that you want us to talk about, cover. Also, feel free to interact with us. We're here to create a connection with you, get to know you deeper, and just truly make an impact so that your wealth, whether it is you're making 5 figures, 6 figures, 9 figures, 10 figures, whatever you're making, right? That you are happy doing what you're doing and that you
Yes.
truly find the fulfillment. So, any last words, Jules?
No, I'm a responder, so I'm really great with questions. If questions for you are something or tools that you are interested in, I'm happy to maybe do those in some future lives as well. If that's an interest, hit us up and let us know. But I mean, I love this conversation. It's very rich. That's my new word for everything. But it is a very rich conversation that I look forward to continuing.
Absolutely. And bring a friend over. I'm of the belief that reaching the peak is not as satisfactory when you do it alone than when you do it with your bestie or somebody that you love and care for. So make sure you follow us. And again, we are here. Thank you for sharing with us your lunch
Yeah.
hour. And we're so looking forward to connecting with you next Friday. I love you. Have a great rest of your day. Jules, thank you for your time. And we
Thank
will
you,
see you
Sin. Thank you
next.
for putting this together.
Absolutely. No, thank you. Appreciate you. Bye.